Hey guys, welcome back to How Come. Oh my God, it's the second to last episode of the season before congratulations. It's so sad that we're going away, but you'll be able to see us at the live shows. Again, we'll be touring, so leave us a review and a rating of where you want us to come. We had so much fun at the last live show. I have added a little sample of that episode on the end of this episode for you guys because we had such a fun time. Our guests were Sarah Armour from Last Comic Standing, Abby Rosenquist, Philly's Funniest, and Joe List from Tuesdays with Stories. And we talked about herpes, and the rest of it's going to be available on patreon.com/howcome. The next live show is September 26th. I think I might have gotten the date wrong the last episode that I said it, but September 26th, How Come Live at the Stand Comedy Club and Restaurant, 9 p.m. this time. And our guests are Nikki Glazer and Andrew Collin. They're both amazing comedians, and they both frequent Nikki's podcast, You Up, on Sirius XM all the time. We're going to be talking about losing your orgasm. What? Both of them have done that. Like, they had orgasms round the clock and then they lost them. How did they get them back? We're going to find out. If you are listening to this early enough on Sunday, August 25th, today is the first Bacon Bits. Bacon Bits is back at the Stand. It's my brunch time comedy show every Sunday, 3:30 p.m., amazing comics, amazing bacon. We just give you bacon. And there's drink specials, bottomless mimosas. Everybody gets fucked up, and I smoke everyone out at the end usually, and we all become best friends. It's kind of the same exact thing that happens at the end of How Come Live. We made so many friends. It was so fun. I'm kind of hoping that like all of you come back to the next one so we can just like see each other again. But like more people come too, and we all just, it's just going to be a community of friends, okay? Charlotte, everybody shout out to Charlotte. She has been doing her applications to get into business school. Our little business bitch. No, our amazing producer. So she's been working her little butt off, and you guys just send her positive vibes so that she gets in and all of her dreams come true. We love Charlotte. And yeah, for tickets to anything, go to howcomepodcast.com. All of our events should be up there. If you don't see them there, remycasimir.com. Get some merch. We have so much cute merch now. And today we're talking about BDSM. It's going to be an amazing episode, obviously.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Okay, I can't wait to jump into this episode. It's going to be amazing. Today, we have Mistress Couple. She is the former head mistress of Domaine Esemar, the world's oldest BDSM training chateau, where she hosts and educates bondage enthusiasts from all over the world. Hooray! Welcome, couple.
Thank you.
Can I call you because you're not my mistress?
Exactly.
Okay,
when
perfect.
we're out of the dungeon, couple
You're
is
just
fine.
couple. Okay, cool. And we have my big here, which I will explain to you guys in a second. She's a New York City comedian who has appeared in HBO's High Maintenance, and I love her. You guys, welcome Rachel Sennott.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm sitting in a beautiful chair, sweating all over it.
Yeah.
Feels great.
There's a lot of fabrics to be sweat on in this apartment. I took down like 300 pounds of curtain the other night. You can see it sitting there.
Chic.
Yeah, I know. You came in, you were like, it's chic here.
It's
I was
chic.
like, you have an interesting definition of chic.
I have to say I do have bad taste. I will go on the record as saying that, but I like stuff.
But you've got great taste in bad taste.
In bad taste.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
It's amazing. So I have to explain big. You know what this is because
yeah.
I've told you. But you know in a sorority how you have like a big who's like your older sister, and then you have a big who's like their older sister.
Sure.
Rachel is the reason why I had my first orgasm. Because she...
And not for the reason you'd think.
Yeah. We did not have sex. But I was on another podcast talking about how I had never had an orgasm. And they were like, our friend Rachel Sennott, who I had not met at the time.
We hadn't met.
Had never had an
Sorry,
orgasm.
it's a dramatic story. We hadn't met.
We hadn't met.
We were meeting through comedians, through podcasts.
Yeah, it was amazing. And they were like, she had never had an orgasm. And then she did with this clitoral suction device. And then I went home. And that's the thing something that worked. And
It's
so
magic.
none of us would be here today without Rachel Sennott.
Thank you. I watched like a YouTube video, and it was like, I just remember like one of my friends showing it to me, and everyone was like, damn, it's weird looking, because they don't obviously they don't show someone using it, they just show the machine. It's just like like whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, what the fuck? And then I was like, all right, I'm trying it. And it's wild.
Yeah.
It really is effective.
Who'd you find out about it from?
I was like at my friend's like dorm, and like all these girls were watching it. And then I think I was the one who was like, okay, I'm doing it. And I went and I got it. Yeah. And it was like, honestly, there was like, I'm sure you talked about your experience like the first time using it, but like my first time using it was like, I didn't, it's like, you really got to get it at the right spot.
Right.
And then as soon as it's on the right spot, it's like,
whoa!
Yeah.
There's no going back.
It's happening. Yeah. Train, all doors are closed.
Yeah.
You're moving. I don't know how trains work, but it's going.
Yeah.
And
the ferry has left.
And it's going quick.
Yeah.
And I like first put it at the wrong spot, and I was like, fuck, I just like blew money on this. You can't return it. And then I like shifted it to the side, and I was like, okay.
That is such a good point that I wanted to tell other people too, because a lot of women have bought those toys, whether it's like the Satisfier, Sweet Vibrations one or whatever. They come up, they're like, I bought it and like I thought it would work because for you it worked, but I got lucky putting it in that spot, my upper left hand quadrant. You know, like
you gotta know the quadrants.
You gotta know your quadrants. So like move around if it's not working for you.
Chic.
But the connection with Couple is that I was saying, Rachel, like, how can I pay you back, you know, for everything that you've done for me? And she's like, I really want to learn about BDSM. So she was like, I want to learn about BDSM. I was like, me too. And so we got the pro.
The pro.
And that is you.
Well, if you want $1 million, we can work on some findom stuff as well, right?
Oh my God. Wait, I actually also want to know that, because I have had people like message me stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know how to like reply.
Stuff like what?
You know, like people would be like, like wanting to send me money for like just to send me money. Is that what findom is?
In a way, yes, but I think honestly
what
when
is?
people findom, financial domination.
I've heard about findom, and this is not what it is. Right? It's when you're talking to finance bros and being like, I'm going to take all your money.
So it goes two ways.
No.
It's when people want to give their money to you, or you are trying to seduce somebody out of their money.
Out of their money.
Yes.
Got it. I
think you could laugh people out of their money for
laugh
sure.
People?
Yeah.
Damn. That would be, I'll say it again, chic. I didn't know. That's the only word I actually know how to describe something. Something is bad, or it's chic.
Or it's quiche. Like Jamae.
Do
you watch that?
No. What is
She's
that?
so young. How old are you, Rachel?
I'm 23.
Okay. And so how old were you when you had your first orgasm?
I was like 20.
20. Okay.
Maybe I was actually 21. I don't know. Literally, when did you have yours? Because I was like not
28. So it was like 2018.
Yeah, it was like probably I had mine like 2 years ago. Maybe a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
Time blurs.
One thing I think is crazy about both of us being late in life comers is that we're both Virgos.
Yeah.
So we're like the virgin of the zodiac. Pure. Mm-hmm.
Precious, but on the inside.
Did you feel like that like idea like affected how you felt?
Yes.
About yourself? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I was always like, I'm the Virgo. I'm the
I was
virgin.
like, stop. My pussy's so little.
Yeah. I was like, I've never had sex with any. Like, I lied about being a virgin for a full year after losing it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Because I've been known as the virgin. So I was like, I want to keep that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Go off.
Do you have anything about being a Virgo?
I feel like people look at me and they're like, oh, she's so high strung and uptight. I want to like fuck that out of her.
Yeah.
You know
totally.
what I mean?
Yeah. Ingenue.
Which I love, obviously. Adore.
It's my brand.
It's my brand.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all. Shake it out of me, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so how old were you when you had your first orgasm?
I was 24, so
Were you 24?
Yeah.
That
20.
surprises me that yours was, I don't want to say like late in life, but not the most, like we've had people who are like, my first one was, I was like
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it turns out I was edging myself for my entire life. I would get like
So your first
right
one was
to the
huge.
edge and
Giant. Yeah.
exactly. And I would get right up to the edge and then I think get nervous or something and stop. And so, the first one was with a boyfriend of mine and I actually squirted and it was like we were both like, what just happened? But after that, then, it became a lot easier because I knew what I was doing and I knew that you had to get over the edge.
hump.
But,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of what I said to Charlotte, that I felt like I must have been edging this whole time, or like carving those neural pathways and stuff and like getting myself to the point, but also being afraid, being like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm going to pee. Well, I definitely don't want to pee in my bed. So I guess we stop now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you squirt the first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Most
the thing
people
is,
do with the suction ones.
and it's
I
like
did.
it's scary because it's almost like you're like, I feel like I could even pee more.
Yeah.
Like I'm always like, this doesn't even feel like the amount of pee that wants to come out of me right now.
Yeah. And it's not always pee, but if it is pee, but it's fine.
It's fine. You're right.
Let's just get the piss fetishists involved and you'll be golden.
Yeah.
golden in 2
Golden
ways.
showers.
Whoa. Boom. Damn.
So how did you get started in BDSM then?
So I had this idea kind of out of nowhere. I was in the first really healthy sexual relationship of my life where I felt like I could actually express my fantasies without being totally judged.
This orgasm guy?
Yes.
Okay.
And I asked him to give me a spanking for my birthday. That was the idea that I had out of somewhere. I'm not really quite sure where it came from, but he agreed to do it. And I remember being really excited about it. We were going out to dinner. So I got all dressed up and I did my hair and my makeup and everything. And we went out to dinner. And the whole time I was thinking about this spanking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the anticipation was building up for this spanking.
Yeah.
And we got back to his apartment and he put me over his lap and panicked.
Really?
Yeah. So talk about tease and denial. And he just was like, I can't hit a woman. I'm really sorry. I can't do it. And I was trying to explain to him that I was giving him permission to do it. And I wanted that. But it was just a hurdle that he was not ready to jump over.
Yeah.
So the next day I was at a girls' night with all my best girlfriends. And
You have friends? That's so cool.
Isn't it? It was really it was really important for this story. Because if I didn't have friends, I would have never gotten to where I am now.
Yeah.
It was actually my little sister's best friend asked about the spanking and how it went, and I told them that it never happened. And she was secretly training at Domaine Esemar as a dominatrix.
Amazing.
So she's now Mistress Blunt, a very famous New York City dominatrix.
Oh my God.
Unreal.
Yeah, and so she was like, Psst, I know somewhere you can go if you really want that spanking.
Yeah.
And it took me a few months to actually gather up the courage to decide to do it and go. But I knew zero about BDSM when she brought me to this place. And La Domaine is
In
the
upstate New
oldest.
York.
Yeah, it's in upstate New York, and it's the
What
oldest.
does it look like? I'm picturing the Xavier Academy for mutants, but they're sexy. I mean,
feel like
I guess
it's
the mutants are sexy too.
Is it French looking?
Is it French?
I mean, everyone in your mind, it totally is French looking. It's actually a little country chalet, like a little country cottage. And we're in the middle of Trump country, so they really try to blend in as much as possible. So we like to say it's like the TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. From the outside, it looks like, what? Where the hell are we? And then you get inside and there's the whole dungeon space.
Are you thinking about Harry
Out
Potter?
of the Box. Oh,
Yeah.
the show Out of the Box.
Out of the Box is great too, but also in Goblet of Fire, when they go to the Wizard's Cup and they go into that tiny tent, and then it's the most massive tent.
Yes.
Or the Ashleys in Recess.
Yes.
When you crawl through the
Did
tires.
you watch Recess? Where it's ooh, scandalous.
Oh, is it cartoon?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Outside. Yes, I know what you're saying.
Or the
cool
bus in
clubhouse.
Spice World from the outside,
Oh my
tiny
God,
from the
bus.
That's the reference I
yeah.
like.
Okay, good.
But you were saying it's the oldest.
It's the oldest BDSM training chateau in the world. So there used to be places like La Domaine all over the globe before the internet and before BDSM became pop culture, and there were all of these conventions to go to. There were these tiny little households where you would have to go. Even if you, this was before even body modification and tattoos were out in the public, like that you could go to a shop and get a tattoo. You would have to find one of these small households where there were people practicing S&M, sadism and masochism. And there was a really intense vetting process to get in. And then once you were in, you would be trained in the arts of BDSM. But it was very, very hard to find them. And then throughout time, and I now know this from running La Domaine, it's a really hard, very intense job. You're responsible for the psychosexual journeys of multiple people at once. So over the years, as BDSM became more accessible, a lot of these places started closing and dying out, and La Domaine is the last one that's open to the public.
It's amazing.
So going from knowing zero about BDSM to walking into this space was a huge splash of cold water.
Yeah,
for sure. But the things that I saw there on my first night just made me feel like it was a really safe place to explore. And so the next morning I took a shower and I didn't put my clothes back on and waited for somebody to notice, because all of the house submissives at La Domaine, when they serve, they're naked.
So everybody starts as a sub, obvious.
No, you don't
Okay.
have to start as a sub, but I did, because that was the role that I was interested in at the time. And that's where I got my name Couple from. The first day that I was there, the headmaster and headmistress noticed very quickly that I was waiting around naked and, waiting to be trained. And they said, "You have this amazing capacity for dominance. Don't you want to do the mistress in training program with us?" And I was like, "What, me? Like, no way. I'm not dom at all. I just want to be a sub. I'm just here to get spanked. Like, don't ever ask me to do anything dominant."
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I had a lot of misconceptions about what being dominant meant.
Sure.
And so at the time I was a professional ballroom dancer. And
Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so they said, like, you know how you learn the followers part in dancing first and then you learn the leaders part?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen to you here.
Oh,
and when ballroom dancers go out into competition, they all wear numbers on their backs. So my full submissive name at La Domaine was couple number 69. And then when I transitioned into being more of a mistress, I decided to keep the name to remind myself that I still do have that side that likes to be spanked, just with very particular people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you find that a lot of people are like versed in that way, or is that rare that people could be a dom and a sub?
Yeah.
I think that if people gave themselves more permission to, they would be. But I think there are a lot of like people try to keep themselves in these roles, and they think like, oh, I'll be less dom if I let somebody do this to me.
Well, I'm like the reverse, because I literally am always like submissive, and like I have like handcuffs that or like tie or whatever, and I'll have my boyfriend tie me up, and then like one time I handcuffed him as like a joke, and then I was like, he literally was like, I hope nobody sucks my dick. Like, it's like, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do with you. I guess I can just like
Suck your dick.
And I was just like, I just didn't, you know what I mean? All of a sudden I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. Yeah.
You got to go in with a game plan.
Absolutely no plan. I had none. So it just, So I'm like that, where I'm like, oh, I could never see myself as anything other than this.
Yeah.
I think the more experiences you have on the bottom, the more insight you'll have as a top as well, because you know what you like. You know what you like. You know what it feels like to go through that, like mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And so
I was
think
thinking
that's
about
why,
it like undercover boss.
Yeah.
You know, like you go up through the ranks of the
Oh my
company
God,
so that
yeah.
like you understand what shitty experience people might be going through, or like something that you could change to make their experience better.
Yeah.
totally.
You're like, I've worked in the mailroom.
Sometimes I'm worried to like let my subs when we do training classes, sometimes there will be too many people there for me to instruct all of them. So I'll be like, to slave 9, okay, pick up one of the floggers and go help them figure it out.
Yeah.
And he knows how to use it so masterfully.
Yeah.
Not because I've taught him how to use it, but because it's been used on him
Right.
So many
so
times.
regularly for so long.
It's like when your mom drives you to school and then suddenly you know how to drive to school.
Yeah.
Even though you've never done it before.
Because you've been in the car.
Because you've been in the car. Yeah. I'm like all about metaphors today. I I don't know
I feel
why.
like this is such a
But also
good
practice
to rich
driving.
Practice driving, yeah. But what was some of the stuff that, like you were saying, like all the things that you experienced the first night? Like,
So I got there. Luckily, Mistress Blunt was smart enough to bring me there the night before the party, so that I could see how the house was operating and kind of get acclimated. But when I walked in, I mean, there were two people kneeling naked in posture on the floor wearing collars. In posture means in like a very specific way of presenting themselves.
Yeah.
And I now know that when they're presenting themselves in that way, what they're supposed to be doing is like arousing everybody in the room, pumping out sex. And it was pretty clear. Like as soon as I walked in the door, I was just hit with this wave of sexuality and was like, what is that?
because they're just sitting there ready to be used.
to be
Yes,
fucked. Damn.
exactly.
It's like when your satisfier is charging.
Here we go again. The metaphors.
I love that.
I'm here.
No, but you're looking at it and it's got this little pulsing light. It's like, come here, I'm ready.
Exactly.
I know the posture because I read 50 Shades of Grey. Right? I think that's probably the only part they got right, was that she had to sit on her knees facing a wall with like some kind of hair and like tied back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the real posture?
Well, everyone has different versions of that posture, but most of them do involve being on your knees. So yes, there was people on their knees in posture. All of the doms were sitting at the table. None of the submissives were allowed to sit on the furniture, so they were all eating on the floor. With
Do you all eat together?
Yep.
What kind of food?
So it was a spaghetti dinner, and the subs had their wrists tied to their ankles and were on their stomachs having to eat. And part of their training. This is like great training for oral sex, right? So they had to learn how to eat all of that without getting sauce on their face or on the floor or
without getting sauce on their. Whoa!
I just don't understand how I could eat spaghetti and then fuck. I had to. That to me is like a heavy dish.
right. Well, luckily, the rule at La Domaine is that nobody gets played with until the dishes are done. So you'll have some time to digest after you eat.
Got it.
And then all of the subs have to go clean up after dinner. And then after dinner, they took them all downstairs to play. And there was
I'm getting so turned on.
I'm so horny.
Just wait. Just wait. This is why they hooked me so early. So there was this beautiful woman who was being whipped by 3 tops, and she was being whipped in the cunt. And every single time the whip would hit her between the legs, she would do a Kegel and basically catch the whip. Yeah. Whoa. And my little 24-year-old self, who still hadn't come yet, was just sitting there totally wide-eyed and mind-blown about what I was even seeing. Yeah. And she was it was clear that she was getting closer and closer to orgasm with the pain. And eventually she got on the edge and she said something like, "Please stop or I will come." And I was like, "What? Please stop. What is this?"
Yeah.
But it was a whole part of her training and of the edging and control. And so they would stop every time she said that until they eventually commanded her to come. And she had this just huge, really loud orgasm, and then immediately started sobbing because it was just an emotional release.
Okay.
It was so good.
Yeah, exactly. And the 3 doms dropped their whips immediately and just went and wrapped their arms around her. And I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm in. This is the place where I want to be.
Well, Charlotte does a lot of research before we have everybody on, and one of the big things that I noticed in the research was aftercare.
Yeah.
And what that seems like. So is a hug usually part of aftercare, or does that depend on the person?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. So some people don't want to be touched at all after something like that. They're like, leave me alone. I'm going to go take a shower. But
classic guy move. I just came. Don't touch me.
Yeah. But for me, especially as a dom, who's the person doing maybe some of the more violent things or even emotionally nasty things, I'm the one who needs to cuddle afterwards.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's an interesting. Yeah.
Who decides how? Do you talk before? I have
Ask
oh my
all of your
God.
questions. That's
If
what she's here for.
Do you come up with a plan before with them? Like, did they come up with a plan together? Like, is there ever off time where people are sort of like chilling or no, not there?
Yeah, these are all such good questions. So I think that everyone who is in a power exchange dynamic should always meet on an equal playing field before they get into the posture. And that getting into posture is kind of like the physical representation of, okay, I'm going down now, like I'm bringing myself down in status. But before that happens, like you're going to sit on the furniture together and have a conversation about, okay, what's the contingency plan if something goes wrong? What do you want to do and what don't you want to do at all? And, you know, afterwards, what kind of aftercare do you need?
And do people like play with anyone or each other? Like, is it like I'm always with like 72 or like that? I was like, God, think of a good name. I was like 7, just a number, but that would be my name. 72 for no reason.
I thought you meant like 72 people. I was like, that is a very greedy person.
No. I was just thinking of like I was like, like, is it like, oh, me and this person are always together, or it's like once you're in the house, it's like anyone in the house.
Oh yeah.
And how long are you there?
Yeah. So you're asking about La Domaine specifically?
Yeah.
So the way that things work there, it's, you know, consent is still the most important thing. So you're not required to play with anybody just because
consent.
you're there. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
I'm learning.
it is important.
Yeah.
And especially in a space like that, because of the power dynamics inherent in the space, somebody might say, okay, yeah, sure, you can tie me up. But really in their head, they're feeling like, I don't know if I want them to, but this person's a dom, so I better say yes.
Got it.
So, yeah, enthusiastic consent is really, really
Instead of
important.
just, okay, it's like, no, yes.
Exactly.
Please. Yeah.
Exactly. And so one of the ways that we really ensure that people are doing what they want to be doing is teaching them how to beg and beg properly, so that like they have to convince me that that's what they want, rather than the other way around of me saying like, hey, let me go tie you up.
Yeah, because you don't want to present something to somebody that they're like, okay, yeah, and then they have this terrible experience and you're like, now I feel like a bad person.
Right. But yeah, so in the chateaus of old, if you were to walk in a submissive role, it was kind of like a free-for-all. So if you're there naked, people could do really basically whatever they wanted to you.
Got it.
In this space now, we have a bracelet system, which is kind of tacky, but it really is important to just help everyone exist in the space safely. So there are people who still want to operate on that old guard system of like the way the chateaus used to be, and they want to go in and if people were checking in with them and asking for enthusiastic consent every step of the way, it would kind of ruin the fantasy for them.
Got it.
So those people, they wear green bracelets, and that means they're old guard, and it's like whatever
ready.
the dom says goes.
Okay.
You have to ask my dom first if I'm wearing a collar.
Yeah.
But if I'm here and I'm wearing a green bracelet, it's like I'm down for anything. And if we don't negotiate, or even if we do negotiate, if I don't say that something is a limit for me, then somebody might still explore that.
Okay.
So it's a lot edgier. But I think it's that aspect of surrender is really valuable to a lot of people, and that's why we tried to keep it alive at La Domaine, but in a way that was still contained and safe. And so there are other people who are like, I would never go into a space like that. That sounds way too scary for me. I want a lot more control, especially people who are just coming into BDSM for the first time. And so those people wear red bracelets, and that means like that you need to have active, continuous, enthusiastic consent every step of the way. So even before you would like switch from I'm using my hand to spank you to now I'm going to use a flogger, you would still
every
say
step
that
of the way
to them and check in about it.
And do you come with a dom, or are you assigned to dom, or is there like a quiz?
No, so people come
a BuzzFeed quiz. Which dom is right for you?
Yeah, I think we should really do some sort of like kinky matchmaking business, because people do come as couples, and then some people come as singles and try to mingle and meet other people in the space.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you were saying about collars, because I feel like collars have become kind of like fashionable in the zeitgeist now. But does that actually mean that you belong to somebody if you're necessarily wearing a collar?
Yeah. And even in the old days of like the old guard first BDSM chateaus, it wasn't even a collar. Like you couldn't take it off. If you belonged to somebody, you would get pierced by them, and you would wear their rings. So
wait, pierced on the ear, or wait?
Well, usually on the nipples or in the genitals. And you would be wearing somebody's rings, and that would show that you were owned. But today it's more of the collars. I see everyone's faces.
Well, there's a purpose for that.
It's hot
too. Like you get more sensation.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of the thing in BDSM is it is about care of the subs and care of everybody. That ultimately you want them to be getting pleasure from it.
Yeah. I don't ever want to dominate somebody who's lesser than me. That doesn't interest me at all. Like somebody who's like, oh, I'm a worthless piece of shit. That's not exciting to me. It's when somebody is my equal and they choose to submit to me. That's fucking hot.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like I don't want to be a fetish item for somebody, or I don't want to be imposing my dominance on somebody. I want it to be something that is like an exchange, a connection between the two of us.
Okay, so after the spaghetti dinner, what happened?
I know. It's like, whoa.
After the spaghetti dinner was the crazy orgasm, bull
the
whipping.
Whip orgasm.
Yep. And then all of the submissives slept in like a little room together, and there was just like it was like a slumber party, lots of chitter chatter and stuff like that. And so then the next morning, I know it's very
That's
sweet.
so sweet and fun.
I love sleepovers. And speaking of sleepovers, I hate to do an ad break now, but anytime we talk about beds, I get all excited about my mattress.
Do you guys ever do BDSM in beds, or is it always just a dungeon?
Sometimes in bed.
Sometimes in beds? Okay, well, we've got a great bed for you.
No, we don't have a great bed. We've got the
best
bed.
bed. The best mattress for sex.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's written
I heard
up
you
for
talking
that,
about
literally.
this.
Did you? Yeah, it's the Helix. I love it. And it's just like you were saying with matching people to their right kind of bondage. Helix Sleep matches you with your perfect mattress. You just go online, take their 2-minute sleep quiz.
And we have a promo code for
Oh,
it.
man, $125 off of any mattress order. And some goes to the podcast.
It's true.
You support your back and your favorite podcasters. How wonderful is that?
Your favorite sex position.
3
Exactly.
in 1. Oh my God.
It's wild. It really is a weird thing we're passionate about now.
We're very
passionate
about it.
our mattresses.
Yeah. And if you want to feel safe having sex and safe sleeping, you're in good hands with Helix.
Literally.
HelixSleep.com/howcome.
Beautiful.
Thank God for Charlotte for introducing me to this thing, and you guys just need to get one. I was even watching our unboxing video from like months ago and like reliving how exciting it was just to see it like unfold and rise. Yes, I love mattresses. They're amazing. I love sleepovers. But let's get back to the sub sleepover. It sounded so cute and fun.
And it's cool because there are people of all different like ages and backgrounds, and so it was really neat. But the next morning, like I said, I woke up and I joined, and I became the slave to the headmaster and headmistress of the house.
Wow.
And I don't use that word lightly. And it's a word that really is only used with people who choose to have it used for them.
Yes.
But for me, with my like Jewish upbringing and my background, I really wanted to explore like what that word meant in my family history and in my own sense of masochism, because I knew that I got off on pain, but I wasn't really sure what that was about.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I was being taken advantage of left and right in like every area of my life by friends and family, because I was just such a people pleaser. I was a pushover. And so I wanted to understand all of that. And I figured that I could through devoting myself to these people.
Yeah.
And so I joined the house as a house slave. That night was a party. And I had my first lesson in BDSM, reading energy in BDSM, where Master R, who is the headmaster of the chateau, and Master Gary, who is another old guard master, tied me up on this cross. And this was before like the days of thorough negotiation. So they just were like, here's your safe word, and here we go. And
whoa,
yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I'm pissing myself. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, keep
Is
going.
it exciting to you?
Yeah. I'm like, what the? A cross? So do you guys also, I'm like, do they just have crosses
I'm
lying
gonna bring
around?
you to SFW.
I'm
you want to
like,
come with me?
where's that?
It's
Yeah.
New
house?
Society for Wellness. They've got a cross. They've got a confession room. They've got all this fun. They've got a dungeon.
Wow, this is sad because I bought like a French maid costume and I was like, I'm so advanced.
No.
And actually, God is laughing at me because I'm not.
Okay,
but-
I thought I was a sexual sophisticate
Yeah,
until I
you're
found
like,
La Domaine, and then I was like, and that there's still
But
more
that's
beyond
fun.
that.
There's always more to learn.
Exactly.
True,
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
If a French maid costume from like a thrift shop was like the height of it, that would be sad. If I had already reached the height,
No, you haven't reached the height.
and I absolutely have not. Okay,
Oh, you've
so
got plenty to keep doing.
Room to grow.
room
Yeah.
to grow. So you're tied to a cross.
You're tied to the cross, and these two masters are just staring me down, and they walked up to me and without saying a word just slapped me across the face as hard as they could. And
You love this.
yeah.
Well, I'm not yet.
And I
Make
mean,
your boyfriend listen to this episode. I'm so excited.
Slap me across the
Smack
face.
you in the face. Yeah.
a lot of people would be really upset by that. You know,
Right.
it's not just something that you can walk up to somebody and do.
Yeah.
But I was like, how did you know? I've been trying to get my boyfriends to do this to me for years. And they said, that's why they call us masters.
Because they can sense your energy.
They can tell what you
Yeah,
want. Oh my
exactly.
god.
They can smell it on you.
No, they literally can.
Can
smell
you
it. That is
really?
part of the training.
Can you smell me right now? What do I want? I'm serious.
This whole room
You
is
want a
just getting
donut.
really thick with pheromones right now.
So, and that's part of the training, to be able to smell someone else's desire or sense
Exactly.
fear.
Yeah, terror. So we all have the capacity to use our senses. And I think that, like, to the degree that other animals do, we always forget that we're beasts.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, like, when you're living in a city environment and, like, you know, everyone, just society in general works in a lot of ways that teach us to shut our senses down. Like, you're trying not to smell the streets because they smell like piss all the time. Like, you're wearing deodorant because you don't want anyone to smell you because that's like a socially maybe unacceptable thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so we dampen our senses as much as we possibly can. But then when we go to have sex, you need all of those things. And I think that's why so many people are so in their heads during sex, because they're not using their senses. And when you're not using your senses, your intellect really doesn't have anything to run off of. It just goes crazy on its own. So a lot of the training at La Domaine really focused around teaching people to use their senses. And that goes back to the spaghetti. Like, that was one of the easiest ways to teach people to use your palate and your sense of smell was eating. So the La Domaine submissives are very well fed, but it's all part of the training as well. So some of the other fun food activities that they do, like we do wine tasting and smelling, so you can like identify the different notes and things.
Yeah.
But also, since you guys like the spaghetti one so much, there's one eating out an egg roll without cracking the outside, just using your tongue.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are good things for people to
For
practice
anyone
at
to
home.
do. Yeah.
But as far as the scent thing goes, I would say, you know, before you start playing with somebody or before you even start making out, just like sniff behind their neck or their wrists or like between their legs and just take note of how that smells. And then as you continue throughout whatever you're doing sexually together, continue to take whiffs, and you'll notice as they're as they're getting closer to orgasm, the scent really does change. You can also do that like when you're playing around with fear play and BDSM. Like you definitely learn the scent of fear, but they're different for everyone as well. So it's not like you're like, oh, it smells like chocolate. That's whatever. But you really can tune into it with your different partners, and it becomes a really powerful tool to use.
With fear play, are you usually just like the whip example was scary but also erotic at the same time. Is that usually the combination, or is there stuff where it's just like straight up you're getting hit and the point isn't to orgasm?
There's a wide range of things, but for fear play in particular, I think we have this little saying or abbreviation, L and T, so lust and terror, that the things that scare you the most tend to also arouse you a lot. And so there's like fear
like
play.
Loneliness. Okay, it's a little bit into me.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying love to like loneliness, but
Oh, yeah,
love is scary too.
Love is scary too.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just like having a sharp blade against your neck and somebody saying, "Don't fucking move."
Yeah.
That's also scary in many ways.
Well, that's like, I think there's a really big difference between like fantasy and like what you want to do in your play life and what you want to do in your real life. Like in your real life, you would probably not want somebody to be doing that, but in your play life, you know that at the end of it, you are generally safe.
Yeah. And that's why that negotiation that we were talking about is so important, so that you've had the conversation with the person, and you know what they are planning on doing or not doing with you, so you can let go a little bit more. And I think beyond just the idea of like who's in charge and who's not in charge, the whole point of BDSM really is like, if I can trust that my bottom is going to use their safe word when they need to, then I can let out my full sadism, like nasty self, and let her go, because I know that they're going to say stop when they need me to stop, and that I can rein that in. And the same thing for them. If they know that I'm going to stop when they say the safe word, then they can go much deeper into this submission.
Relaxation, that it's not like this is going to be taken to a point where I'm definitely not comfortable.
Right. Because if you're always being vigilant, which so many of us are just because of the way dating culture and society is, when you're having sex, if you're always being vigilant, then there's no way to actually truly submit.
Yeah.
You're still trying to control everything.
Well, that's what I thought was interesting too, is that it is all the control of the submissive at the end of the day. Like, you think it's the dom that's doing everything, but it is the submissive who decides the boundaries and decides when to say stop.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a really empowering thing, I think.
Yes. And I think that's why so many people who start as submissives end up maybe not even like fully embracing dominance all the time, but they at least explore it, because they start to realize, oh wait, people are going to listen when I state my boundaries. I can get what I want, and like I can do this in a safe way. And it just really builds confidence for people, especially when you're getting these you're doing activities that are considered to be like subversive or taboo, and you're doing them in ways that like make you feel like you're soaring afterwards.
Yeah. There's that show on Netflix, Bonding. You've seen it, right? I had a lot of issues with, I mean, I know that the sex working community and the BDSM community has a lot of issues with it. Initially, I was really excited to see that it was something that was being like on Netflix, and pop culture and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. That like brings it out into the forefront. But the way that they depict it is like a very unsafe. Like the first time she brings her new assistant into the room, he's asked to do something that he has not talked about before and not consented to.
I just thought the most ridiculous part was it was very clear they hadn't consulted with a dom, because the client got a golden shower with his clothes on.
Right.
I was like, I mean, I guess some people have a fetish for that, but that's really not very practical.
But what are the like misconceptions people have and that were shown in that show?
Well, I think that the biggest issue that I had with it, and well, the second biggest issue I had with it, was that all of the jokes were at the expense of the fetishists, right? Like there are so many funny things that happen in the dungeon all the time and with clients all the time that don't revolve around making fun of somebody's fetish or fetish interest. And I am worried that for instance, like people who have the tickling fetish or people who are furries who are watching that show are going to be really embarrassed, and it's going to add to the stigma and shame of those fetishes rather than like bringing them into the light. Like I think
it's like I have representation, but it's like as a weirdo.
Right. Yeah. And I think the goal, like the goals of the
on there to be like laughed at.
Yeah. I think the goals of the producers of the show were very different than the outcome of what happened. And I actually spoke with them after I was pissed off.
Yeah.
And, they were actually really gracious and answered my email, and we had some really great conversations about it. And Writer Doyle, the writer for the show, issued a public apology. And I'm really hoping that if Netflix picks up the show for a second season, which I hope they do, that they get some more insight from sex workers in there, and that maybe the characters on the show could grow. Totally. And like that the people watching the show could grow and learn along with them. I think that would be a great opportunity for the show.
That she was like, we shouldn't have gone to that guy's house. That wasn't protocol.
I mean, that was the part that really upset me and most other sex workers, is that like there are sex workers who are incarcerated currently for trying to protect themselves against clients who are dangerous and abusive and who are attacking them or trying to rape them or whatnot. And like the fact that this show not only ended on that note, but ended like that she's running away from the cops, but also like it was supposed to be seen in a comical way.
Like, ha ha ha, we did it, we escaped.
Yeah.
It's like we should have never put ourselves in that position in the first place.
Yeah, and I think many doms wouldn't, but some people don't have the opportunity or the privilege to not put themselves in that position. Totally. And the fact that like this was all put out there during the age of Sesta Fosta, when so many survival sex workers and other sex workers are like being forced into more dangerous situations because we can't advertise. Like I just thought it was really tone deaf.
Can you explain to our listeners?
Yeah, so Sesta Fosta were some bills that were passed. They were pitched to everybody in the light that they were supposed to be stopping sex trafficking. But really what they did was incriminate any website that was used to advertise for any type of sex work, could be held responsible for whatever was sold through their website. And in general, that sounds like a really good idea. Like, yes, let's make these platforms responsible. However, the only way that they could protect themselves was to take things down. So that's where like the Craigslist personals went, and that's where Backpage went. They all started shutting down because they couldn't control what was being advertised through their sites. But what that did was it drove all of the sex trafficking even further underground and made it harder for law enforcement to find those people. And it made it impossible for people who were doing consensual sex work to advertise and screen their clients safely. So, it really sucks that Craigslist personals are gone and that you can't like cruise online, but it's affecting people in a much, much deeper way. And people are literally dying because of the results of these bills. And so Decrim New York is a wonderful organization that's working to fight against legislation like that and a lot of other legislation that or laws that screw over sex workers in general. And I think it's an amazing thing. It really sucks that Sesta Fosta was passed, but over the past 2 or 3 years, the sex work community has really rallied together and become this incredible force. And that's why you're hearing about decriminalization, even in the political arena right now. But we've definitely become, I like to think of us as the sex worker mafia. Like, don't fuck with us because, we are very well connected and resourceful and
but if the system's not working for you guys, like there has to be a system that does, and you want to protect those people and keep them safe and make sure that all the play is going to be safe so that nobody has like a bad experience.
Of course. And so, I understand the privilege that I have to have the microphone that I have being on the stage that I am as the headmistress of La Domaine. And so I was like, well, what can I do? Well, I'm I have some friends with some connections. Let me write to the producers and see if I can get them to at least understand why what they're doing is so offensive.
Yeah. And I think also like they kind of have to rewrite her and be like, oh, because they write her as this very experienced dom or whatever. And now she kind of maybe needs to take a step back and be like, I'm not as experienced as I thought.
Yeah.
And here are some things that I'll change.
Yeah. Oh, I got to go take a training course with Mistress Couple.
Yeah, exactly. A little expository writing.
Yes. They start the show. And by the way, I to her diary, I realized maybe I know less.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you were written up in Rolling Stone about the show also. And one thing that really stuck with us was you said the biggest fear that you had was that it'll inspire women to think that it's like an easy side hustle where you can take your trauma out on people for money.
Yeah.
Or that anybody coming into it is coming from a place of trauma, like this person. She's just like...
Yeah, I mean, I think dominatrixes and sex workers are some of the most caring, compassionate caretakers that I know. And I think that's something that people forget about a lot, or it gets swept under the rug and people don't notice. But yeah, of course, there are doms out there who are... taking out trauma on people, but that is not the majority of us. And people were really upset to be represented in that way, because we do take our training seriously and we take dealing with our clients seriously. And even people who are new to domination, I do a lot of training of pro doms who work in New York City, who are in the dungeon system, like the house system of dungeons, where basically they pick up people off of Craigslist or off the street and they say like, hey, you look great, you're hot, want to come be a pro dom? And some of them do really have this deep interest and deep desire to explore BDSM, but the position that they're put in with clients all the time, like the clients are much more experienced because they've been in New York City for so long, they've been seeing doms for so long, and so they get put in positions that are pretty difficult for them. That doesn't mean that they don't take it seriously, though. And that's why they all come, well, not all, but many approach me for training, because they realize, the dungeons aren't really giving us the tools that we need to interact with these people in the ways that we want to. And I think there's also this very big group of fetishists in New York City, fetishist men, who their fetish is to see like if they can dom the dom, dom the new doms.
Whoa.
And I think that was kind of also portrayed in the bonding show. They got that right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do need a large skill set, and not only in like how to wield the implements, but how to wield your brain. Yeah.
Like your background is in psychology too.
Yes. Yeah. And so understanding the psychology behind all of that is incredibly important for people. And they invest not only time, but a lot of money in their education. So yeah, the way, even like the terrible rope work on the show, it was like, come on, you could have hired somebody to come in for like 2 seconds and show them how to tie a knot. So
when you guys are learning that stuff, is it like, does it feel like a class setting? Like I went, do you know Lola Jean?
I love her,
yeah. So I went to her masturbation class and stuff, and like that was a class basically. It was like sitting in a yoga room, everybody looking at her play with her vagina, and then they did the same thing. Yeah. Like when you were learning rope stuff, or maybe like flogging or whatever, is it one-on-one or is it kind of a group experience?
I do both. So I do a lot of one-on-one training, or like training 1-on-2 with couples, which I love doing. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I also do a lot of group classes and workshops that get to be pretty large in size, like 50 to 100 people. Cool. But the pro dom training is very specific, and I only teach like less than 10 people, usually 5 or 6 at a time, so that we can really get hands-on and also like really deep in psychologically. And I have all of my personal submissives there as the demo bottoms, so they are wonderful at giving feedback and saying like, well, this is what it felt like, or hey, you're wrapping that whip a little bit and it doesn't feel right, or something like that, so they can get the feedback that they need, rather than just being like, am I doing this right? Because I think especially for new doms, confidence is really the most important ingredient, and if you're not really sure of what you're doing is connecting, then how on earth are you going to be confident?
Yeah, and how is your sub going to be confident in what you're doing?
Yeah. Oh my god, if someone is like the person who's about to like hit you. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. It's like, I don't feel good. Yeah. It's scary. Oh my God. Wait, psychologically, do you mean like in terms of, are you almost like reverse engineering what the psychological experience is supposed to be? Like, are you going from the mind out or the experience in? Does that make any sense?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, like, I guess maybe in simpler terms, like how has your psychology background helped you be a dom?
Yeah, that was a great way of saying whatever the fuck I just said. I was like, you inside out, left to right, brain, heart, touching.
I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of the psychological element really comes into play during the negotiation. So you're asking the people what they're looking to get out of it. What I love asking, like, what do you do in your everyday life? Like, what's your job? How do you move through the world? Like, how do you interact with power on an everyday basis? Because however you interact with power in your everyday life, you're either going to be really stuck in that role and want to only stay in that role and like be totally in control, or you're going to be exhausted by that and you're going to be like ready to totally be taken advantage of.
Those are the people that I feel like I always thought of when it was BDSM, was like these high power finance guys who had like really like serious jobs, and then they wanted to be dominated because they were just so exhausted being the boss all day.
Yeah, totally. But like also moms, like stay-at-home moms, they work their asses off and they're getting the family together all day long, and like while that's seen as a more submissive role socially,
no, you're the head of a household.
Exactly. And so a lot of those women,
and all the decisions you're making are on you all day.
And
and if something goes wrong, that's on you.
So at the end of the day, being like, well, fuck you, like come home from work and fucking tie me up and spank me. That's your job now. Like that, I think, is something that I've seen a lot socially changing these days.
That's
also,
what I liked about In Bonding, though, too, was that they did help a couple.
Yes.
That part was really good. And I know that you work with a lot of couples, too. Like, how does that change their relationships?
That's one of my favorite things to do. I like to call myself a husband trainer. And, you know, as much as I love training the husbands to please their wives, especially recently, I think that fetishes and like the way that people express their sexuality changes so much just based on what's going on in the collective social subconscious, right?
Totally.
So right now, especially since Trump has become president, a lot of men have decided that they want to submit to their wives, which is really interesting. I wasn't totally expecting that, but especially in terms of orgasm control and chastity, that's like something that has really surged in my clientele recently. And so these women are like, wait, what? I get to control your dick? Like, yeah, of course I want to do that. But how? Like, that seems really challenging. And so I have a lot of people come to me for training in that specifically. And talk about the posture. Like, the first time putting a man in posture on his knees in front of his wife and like just feeling that her energy shift and how empowered she feels is like one of the most rewarding parts of my job for me. And not only subjecting the men, but I think they like that, you know. I wouldn't do it if they didn't like it. And the like sheepish grin on their face that they get when they're like, ah, shit, I've been discovered, and now I'm like, now I'm in trouble because we're here at Mistress Couple's dungeon, and like now I'm actually going to be locked up, like shit.
See, I feel like I've always been in like a really submissive role for sex, like just because of not just because of what society, but like I like, you know, the feminine, like, oh yeah, like do stuff to me, and like I'll listen to you. Like I find that really hot to be submissive sometimes, but like throughout this podcast, like I'm like, no, I really like being dominant as well. And the other day, Ben says I can tell. It's okay. But I was sent a box from a BDSM company, and they had given me this like body stocking, and I tried it on, and then I had this other piece of lingerie that I had bought for myself that looked so fucking bad on me that it was comical. But I was like, if I'm going to look so good in this body stocking, I want him to wear this other little lingerie thing. And so he's laying in my bed, and I was like, babe, put on this lingerie. And he's like, no, like I'm sleeping. And I'm like, no, you're not. And I pulled off his pajama pants and I changed him into his lingerie. And if I had sensed him being like, no, really no, like I wouldn't have done it. But he was like, no, but like kind of getting like excited or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, the lingerie is this like crotchless panty essentially. Yeah. So like the front's open, the back's open, and then there's like this little halter that goes around that's lace. And so I put that on him, and him and I are looking in the mirror at ourselves in these lace whatever, and his dick's sticking out of the crotchless part. On. Yeah. And both of us are looking in the mirror and like kind of laughing at ourselves that like he's let me do this to him or whatever. Yeah. And then he starts getting a boner just looking at himself and at me in the mirror, and then we had like the best sex ever.
There you go.
But yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I was just saying to Charlotte recently, I was like, I love touching like that in between spot between the butt and the balls because it makes me feel like I've got them cupped in my hands, you know?
Oh yeah.
Or like I've started like licking their nips.
Okay, I actually can't get my boyfriend to let me lick his nipples.
Really?
I'm always trying to lick
It's a super, I think, vulnerable thing for most men because I don't think it's something that's discussed widely. And every single man that I've encountered when you go to touch their nipples, they're like, wait, I have to tell you something. Like it's this giant secret.
Oh my God. I have to tell you something. That's so fucking funny. Oh my God. That's what I would do as like a little kid if my mom would be like, you have to get in the pool, or like it's something, or like it's time to get on the roller coaster, and I'm like, wait, I have to tell you something. I ate a hot dog before. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that's like the hot button for men.
Is that the thing they usually have to tell you? They're like, I'm going to come really quick.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're just like, it's really sensitive.
Yeah. But nipples are sensitive.
So
that's why you play with ours.
Exactly.
Okay, so are there levels of like weaponry, not weaponry, but like do you start in flogging and then work your way up to whips, or is it like a...
Yeah, I would say so. As far as implements go, I would also say that not all BDSM revolves around pain. So there are so many activities that you can do. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know about
feathers.
I love tickling. Yeah. But just like tease and denial and edging and mindfuckery and mental bondage. There's so many other things. But
I love mindfuckery. That's interesting to me. Yeah.
It's like I want to keep them on their toes.
Yeah,
keep them guessing.
Exactly. Yeah. I could see that, especially with how quick you are. Like that would be a fun thing for you to do. Yeah. But with impact play in particular, I really enjoy it because of the chemical response that you have in your body and your brain. And also, I just personally, I can't get off without pain being involved.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think also for a lot of people who are masochists, they just have a higher pain tolerance than other people. And so like to me, if somebody's just touching my cunt like very lightly, that is the most annoying thing in the world. It feels like nails on a chalkboard. It's terrible.
Like a soft handshake.
Yeah,
someone's like,
ew.
Yeah, exactly.
Take my strong hand.
But so I think you need to like have an arsenal of weaponry that goes from, you would start with your hand, like hand spanking. Over the knee hand spanking is always the best way to start, in my opinion. And then maybe move up to paddles, floggers, move through that up to whips. And single tails and whips are very dangerous and can cut flesh. And so
like cat of nine tails is better.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's still pretty nasty because that has knots on the end. Yeah. But they won't, because it's spread out, the force is spread out along the different tails, it's not going to slice as much as a bullwhip or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah. But with a whip, you can, if you are masterful with a whip, you can go from like barely like brushing somebody's hair, like very lightly kissing them with the whip, to completely slicing them open.
Like that woman who was having her vagina whipped.
Yeah, she was not
getting cut up.
Correct.
Yeah. So can people like experiment with BDSM by themselves without having a professional brought in a safe way?
Totally. So I wrote this book, The Ultimate Guide to Bondage. And
yes, you did.
There is a wonderful chapter in it all about self-bondage that you can do without partners. And yeah, I mean, there are plenty of things that you can do. It's more of an element of like being in control of yourself or setting up situations where you're totally out of control. So that can get pretty dangerous. But yes, of course you can do it on your own. I have a friend who plays edging games with herself where she'll like pull up math problems on the computer, and then like she'll have to answer a certain number of math problems correctly before she can edge, and if she gets one wrong she has to stop. And so
you can be your own sub and dom.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting to do that and start out by yourself, like the way like I started coming by myself. So did Rachel. Like, and now like, can you do it with your boyfriend?
Yeah.
So like maybe
But you
try
need
it
to, like,
alone and then
break
let them
the
in.
seal
Yeah,
or
you have to break
whatever.
the seal.
Yeah, and that's what I think self-bondage is so good for, because you can do it while you're watching Netflix at night, tie your legs up. It feels good. It feels cozy. It actually is going to like help you in your brain get kind of settle down and get ready to go to bed anyway, or maybe not go to bed and get your Hitachi out, something. Yeah. But it's a way that you can experience what it feels like to be restrained while you're still in a safe setting. And then, and I think that's also how people come. Like, they feel safe doing it on their own, and then their body gets used to that, and they can then go do it with a partner.
Wait, okay, so speaking of getting cozy for bed, I need to give a shout out to a really comfortable aspect of my bed that I haven't talked about a ton, but I've talked about a little bit. My new Brooklinen sheets. They're so great. They're not even that new anymore. They're like 6 months old, I guess, but they get more and more comfortable over time. I am so madly in love with these sheets, you guys. Sheets, pillowcases, comforter, all amazing, all hotel quality and super affordable. That's why they started, because they were like, we want to make hotel quality sheets and not make them break the bank. And it's called Brooklinen because it's out of Brooklyn. It's so clever. They are so comfortable. The other day I was at our parents' house and Mom had bought new sheets, and she was like, oh, you'll love the new sheets on the bed. They're like super fancy, like blah, 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 whatever. I got them for a great price. And I was like, okay, woo. And I am not joking. This is not for the sake of the ad. You can ask Ben. I have never been a sweatier, smellier person in my life. Like, I was so stinky and sweaty, and it was just so bad. And I was like, these are fancy sheets, allegedly. Anyway, so I made her buy Brooklinen sheets, and she used our promo code and got 10% off and free shipping by using promo code HowCome at brooklinen.com. BROOKLINEN.com. And the sheets are gorgeous. They're amazing. They come in so many different colors. You can mix and match sheet sets. Like, you can get patterns on some white, it's just awesome. And making your home beautiful is like the ultimate form of self-care. I feel so great every time I get into my bed. So when you sleep well on hotel quality sheets that don't cost an arm and a leg. 35,000 5-star reviews, more than any other online bedding company, 500,000 happy sleepers and counting. My Brooklinen sheets are the most comfortable sheets I've ever slept on, like I said. And their towels have turned my bathroom into a spa. I couldn't recommend them more for my friends, family, or treating yourself to the upgrade you deserve. Brooklinen.com. Go. They're giving our listeners an exclusive offer, 10% off and free shipping when we use promo code HowCome at brooklinen.com. Like I said, yes, my mom listens to this podcast, so she gets it too. Brooklinen is so confident in their product that all their sheets, comforters, and towels come with a lifetime warranty. What? Amazing. The only way to get 10% off and free shipping is to use promo code HowCome at brooklinen.com. That is BROOKLINEN.com. Promo code HowCome. Brooklinen, the best sheets ever. Okay, I have finished now. Okay. I am satisfied. Go get them. Also, I had a really great experience in my sheets this morning, and I want to tell you all about it.
So you hear about the threshold between pleasure and pain and how they're like really connected and stuff. And I think like I've always really enjoyed spanking and stuff, but I never fully got it until actually this morning. I was masturbating and I realized that whenever I come really hard, my butt is clenched so hard that it physically hurts me.
Yeah.
But in that pain, I'm like, yeah. And I'm pushing through it for this like awesome pleasure. And it was I was like, this is the perfect day to have this epiphany.
Yeah. And actually, when you're doing spanking, all of the nerve endings for your genitals kind of poke out back there, and so you're stimulating all of those with the pain.
That's what Dominus Eros, he gave me a tantric massage. Do you know him too? Yeah.
Wait, what's a tantric massage?
You got to do it. I'll tell you after. But yeah, season 1, episode 5.
I'm like, I'm gonna re-listen to this episode because I
take
notes on my phone while we're talking,
and then masturbate to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, before he got me going, he like kind of like smacked my butt, like chopped it up, and got all like the blood moving and like the flow feeling like to the pelvic area.
Yeah.
So it's not just like spanking for like you're a bad girl's sake. It's spanking for like I'm gonna really pleasure you sake.
Yeah, it's foreplay for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of punishment, one thing we thought was so interesting was you were saying in an article about how when you're punishing your subs.
Oh yeah, I love this.
Like, I think the conception is like BDSM, it's nasty, it's mean, but like you're not actually,
when you've been a
being
bad
aggressive
sub.
When you've been a bad sub, you were saying
You don't get hit.
No, you get a timeout.
You get a timeout.
Yeah.
You sit in the corner.
Exactly.
And you don't get attention.
Isn't that the worst?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that way they're not getting rewarded
That's an
for
actual
acting
punishment.
out.
That's actually
Yeah.
not getting attention. Oh my god.
Yeah, because you don't want
I'm
any of
addicted
that
to
like
attention.
secretary shit where, you know, she's fucking up on purpose to try and get beat or like trying. I don't want my subs to try and annoy me on purpose. I want them to be the best trained subs that they can be. Yeah. And so, yeah, they know that they only get hit if they do a good job.
Yeah.
Also, the entire time we've been recording this podcast, your slave has been waiting in the car for you.
Yes, he's definitely out in the car with the AC on and
Yeah.
hopefully the window cracked.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good boy.
I love that. What else do we have? We're almost done. Don't worry. Also, I just want to talk about Rachel because you're such a great comic, and we haven't really. But you're.
I've just been like
I know.
literally fucking locked in. I don't think I've ever been this focused during a podcast before. Like everything I carry, I'm like, fuck.
No, we actually gagged you.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was multiple times where I was like, I don't know what to say. This is so interesting. This is so good.
But we have been talking about how people like your Instagram persona is a very sexy one because you're a very sexy gal, a very unapologetically sexy person. How do you deal with, like, I see the comments that people leave you?
Yeah, I get, actually, do you want to hear something kind of sad but sort of funny? I think I have like near perfect tits. I have a flat, small, regular ass. And it's not very special. It's just fine.
It's cute,
and
it's smooth, and it's white.
And you don't even,
It's a little
it's
alabaster hiney.
Thank you for
so
saying
cute.
that.
Like a
And that's
copper
very
tone
kind.
girl.
Yeah.
It is that. And I usually really just, I don't ever post my like bare, but I usually like flaunt the chest. And so yesterday I was at the pool and I posted like a pic of my butt in it, and I got DM'd. It's actually kind of funny. A picture of me with Hank Hill over my top part. Wait, this. Isn't that kind of sad?
Why did somebody take the time
guy
to
from
do
King
that?
of the Hill with your little butt.
With my tiny little butt. It did make me cry, but now it's funny a day later.
I mean,
because I really didn't, the reason I like have such an Instagram whatever thing is because I really like
are great at it and are Gen Z and have near perfect tits.
Thank you. No, because I used to be really like insecure. I really only like became confident in who I am in probably like the last year, and I'm still not even that confident because I cried over this photo. But because I just like, I was like raised really Catholic and like no
wonder you're kinky.
Yeah. I know, literally it's going to church. I'm like, what? I mean, I don't go, but I go when I go home, and I'm like,
that's why she got so excited about being hung up on a cross.
Yeah. I look at making eye contact ever since I was a child, staring at it. But yeah, I just like, I wasn't ever dressed confidently or sexy or whatever, and I don't even really think I dress sexy now. I just feel like I dress in what I feel like I feel comfortable.
But that's
in.
what is sexy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Truth.
I don't know if that's full circle because we didn't start with that, but good point.
Thank you.
And also, I realized my friend said this to me after I was crying over the Hank Hill post. LOL. He was like, "Don't post for the haters, post for the fans. Haters are gonna come anyways."
Yeah.
And I was like, James, amazing point.
Yeah.
Because it's like, who fucking cares? No matter what happens, people are gonna post and either call me like ugly or call me like slut, a whore. What, I don't really care. It's like, really, no matter what happens, people will say something about that.
Yeah.
You know what though? I feel like all PR is good PR, and that person literally spent at least like 5-10 minutes
doing that. You're right.
and sending it to
That's
you.
a lot of passion for hatred. That's the thing.
true.
Is like
Exactly.
there's a like the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy.
Yep.
You're right.
You know, like that person just cares about you a little too much.
A little too. I know. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Dude, I had plans last night. They did not. And that's sad.
But what you were saying, it's like you're posting for the lovers, not the haters. I think first and foremost, as lame as this sounds, you have to post for you, because whether people hate on it or not, as long as you like something, you're saying like you feel comfortable, that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the same way that I've been only more confident this year, and it's because I've been dressing like myself. Like I feel like I've always been dressing as like this archetypal like woman I'm supposed to be instead of the person I actually am, and I'm like, I'm so much hotter in Adidas track pants.
In what you are meant to wear.
Yeah.
I grew up I was born in Massachusetts. I lived there for a little, but then we moved to Connecticut for like a job for my dad, and it was like, I don't look good in like polos and like
Dude, I was talking about this last night.
Yeah.
We were talking about polos at the barbershop show. Everybody was wearing polos, and polos, Lacoste shirts was when I started hating myf.
Yeah,
because
it's
they were too
weird.
tight around my arms, and they weren't for girls with boobs. They made you look
not
fat.
for girls with boobs. The clothes in Connecticut are not for girls with boobs.
Cable knit sweaters, no thank you.
No, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to show off, but I don't have any of the things, and it's hiding all the things that I am trying to show. So yeah, I think getting like confident, and then like and then I feel like I'm still like trying to make I'm never like blatantly confident. I'm also like, or like I guess I'm not. I'm like calling out the post for what it is. Like when I posted pictures of me in like that French maid costume, I was like horny maid pics, because that's what they are.
That's what they are.
They're horny maid pics.
Yeah.
I want to see these.
Yeah, she's got the most tasteful thirst traps you've ever seen.
Thank you.
Hardly any makeup most of the time, like just natural, hot faced, and gorgeous boobs.
Sweating,
just sweating with a clever caption.
No wonder you're getting all those pay pigs.
Yeah.
They like the sweat and the scent fetish for sure.
Well,
there you go.
sweating.
Yeah, you can smell the pheromones through your Instagram.
Oh my
That's
god.
great marketing.
100%. Do you change your outfit or your appearance for when you're doming or subbing, or?
When I'm subbing, I'm usually naked.
Okay.
When I'm doming, it really depends on the mood that I'm in that day. And then, I have very few real people clothes.
Yeah.
It's kind of challenging to hang out with my friends who have kids. I've been having to like, wait, what do real people wear?
I mean, you can wear
Not
this
thigh
to
high
meet
boots
Nanny.
or whatever. Yeah.
This is a chic cute look.
Chic.
Thank you.
Chic for the 5th time.
Yeah.
Chic for the 8th time. On
This
the
episode is called BDSM is chic.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, so there's one tweet from another comic in the city, because we were talking about how sex work is work. And it's Anya Volts. She says sex work is real work, and that's the only thing stopping me from doing it.
Oh my god, I love that.
That's
Love Anya.
amazing.
Because it is real work.
It
How
is.
How often are you working?
All the time.
All the time.
And that's why I'm starting to branch out from La Domaine, because I was living and working in the same place, and it was just completely, totally consuming.
Taking over your life.
And even when you're not quote unquote working, so still being responsible for people's sexual well-being is work. And so my self-care game has just really had to step it up like 10 million times. And luckily I've gotten much better at that. Because sex workers, I think we definitely have been, at least my sex worker friends and I have been banding together. It's kind of like going to the gym. You're like, I'm not going to do it unless we all do it together. So self-care night. So yeah, I think that's super important, especially for people who are doing sex work.
Yeah.
But I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can I ask you what you want to be doing submissively?
Oh my God.
Do you know?
I just feel like in the last year, like I've been able to do it more because I'm in like the first, like what you were saying, that first relationship.
That's like healthy.
That's like healthy where you can like try stuff. And I've just done like scenarios, I think. I feel like I have what you were saying. You're not attracted to, but you like the things that you fear turn you on. And so I guess I definitely have like a lot of sort of like fantasy, like fantasies. Yeah. Like I feel like that. I don't know if
but that's
like
what I was saying before.
Yeah.
It's you don't necessarily want to get raped.
In fact, I actually don't.
A rape fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy.
And it's
right.
Yeah.
And that's what
like
we were talking
like
about before. Like when you know that your partner is actually going to stop, when you say you're safe for it and that it can stop, then you can fully enter into that fantasy in an excited way.
Yeah. So it's just like stuff like that. Like really like I mean I have a joke that's like my fantasy is like where you pretend to be asleep and then he starts to have sex with you and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what? Like what's going on? But like those types of things where it's like you know what's happening, but you
I've seen a brother sister stepsister porn like that where she's like, oh, you just woke up and now we're having sex. And I was like, oh, I love this scenario.
Like a lot of stuff like that I think is what I'm into. Or like my French maid costume, it's sort of like cleaning the apartment and then like you end up having sex with the person you're cleaning the apartment of.
Do you ever like wear a vibrator or like something like that when you're wearing the outfit and cleaning? Because that is an awesome way to enhance it.
Wait, you're wearing
like a bullet vibrator or maybe even one with like a remote control
and somebody else can control it
and somebody else
that's
like
so
pushing
hot.
the buttons across the room.
No, that's my like, do you know when you go to yoga class and they're like, if you're really like if you're feeling comfortable in this, like try lifting your arms twice. Like that's my that. Yeah, I'll try that.
The advanced
that's, like,
pose.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The advanced pose. Yeah.
I'm the remedial one. I'm like on my side.
Yeah. and feel free to lie down and sort of breathe at any time.
Child's pose.
Yeah. That's I think that is like cool to me.
Or like in 50 Shades of Grey, they had her put in Kegel balls and then just be at dinner. Like when you were saying like that whole dinner, you were waiting for the spanking. Like that whole dinner, she was thinking about the Kegel balls being in there, waiting for him to remove them. Like I feel like a big part of it is the anticipation and having this thing that like, both of you know that nobody else does.
Exactly. It's really fun.
Or like I like setting a scene because I feel like right now, I think I have to be like more specific because sometimes I did do that like sleeping thing with my boyfriend and he was like already fucking up, no offense, and I just had to like keep waking up and be like, start again, like you're not doing it right. We said
take 16.
We went to acting
back
school.
to one. Yeah.
I think that's a super common
places.
Fantasy. Like haven't we talked about that before? Of I feel like it must have been you. The fantasy of like you are asleep and you wake up to someone going down on you.
Yeah.
Like so many people have that.
Yeah.
Or you wake up.
I don't think that was with me, honestly. Yeah. But I do love that for you and whoever you were talking to.
Sorry, I was reading it online. But yeah, something like that. Or like, I'm trying to think. I do have like... Yeah, I know. I'm like honestly even afraid to say like some of the things. Sometimes I'll be like masturbating and I'll think of something and I'll like come and then I'll be like, you fucked up little bitch. Like how dare you even think of that? Like stuff that I don't even want to say out loud in the pod. But
that's okay.
But I think
people have
I want
fantasies.
to encourage people to like, especially you, because I can tell that all that fucked up shit in there is going to feel
a little perv.
so empowering when you actually do them.
Yeah.
And like owning that and just being like, I am a fucking weirdo and I do get off on this stuff. Like I think that is one of the most powerful things that people can do for themselves and their sexuality.
One of my favorite things that from the beginning of this podcast, I was on
a different one with Micah Fox and Karen Feehan when they still had Shame On. And Micah told me that she likes to watch overweight people on treadmills, and that's what gets her off.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't necessarily want to admit that all the time, but like,
it's very specific, but it's
very
cool.
specific.
Yeah.
And if somebody else is out there thinking like, oh shit, I thought that was fucking weird and I've been judging myself the whole time. Like, no, people.
Or maybe there's an overweight person who's like, I really want to be watched on the treadmill.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
I mean, I've had a balloon fetish for my entire life.
Whoa.
And
What is that?
I don't even know.
I love to ride balloons. It feels great. And like sometimes even like ride them until it pops because that's really scary and it feels good against your cunt. Or it's a lot about fear play for me and like the visual of it inflating and engorging and then popping. Like it's, I don't know. Just for me, the visual is super hot.
I was watching, it wasn't Planet Earth. It's Moving Art. Have you seen that? It's like visions of our world and like, you know, things being filmed or whatever. And I was watching this one episode and it's just music in the background with flowers blooming. And that got me so horny.
Ecosexual.
Yeah. Oh, is that what I am?
It's a thing.
I'm going to go start
ecosexual.
hooking up with plants.
Do you want to hear something that made me so horny? Was, do you know those like lo-fi beats?
Yeah.
Yes. And they have like a little thing on. First of all, whenever I smoke weed, I get so high because I think I'm a really uptight person. And whenever I relax, I realize that I'm incredibly horny, but I don't think of that like because I'm like so like high strung.
Pent up, yeah.
So I was like high at my friends and we were like playing lo-fi beats and it's just like a cartoon girl sitting on a chair doing homework. And I was like staring at it and I was like, in my head, I was like, what if I was in that chair? But I was getting fucked. Yeah. And then I just made me so horny and it was like the most mundane thing.
It's awesome.
But it's awesome.
But I guess I wasn't even I just was like, so is that not?
You're just in it. No,
you're
that's
just in it.
great.
You're like that. What if I was actually a cartoon getting fucked?
Yeah.
But
I
it's
love
just
that.
a random thing.
It would scare me for the future if I had children and I was watching cartoons and suddenly I'm all horny.
It wasn't a child. It wasn't a child. It was an adult cartoon.
No. Oh, an adult cartoon.
It was just like a regular person sitting in a chair writing on a paper.
Yeah, but you get that like Pavlov's dog thing that whenever you see a cartoon, now you're
I
like
just was like,
boner
I just
central.
was like, I just, now I'm actually watching like
fuck
Caillou.
Dora the Explorer.
Yeah. Damn. I also would want to go to like a sex party, but I do. Okay, actually, it's coming back for an A time. It does have to be chic. Like, it has to be.
NSFW is chic. I will take you.
Okay, because I feel like when you say chateau, I'm like, that's it. Like, it's got to be like very. I just want it to be like tasteful. Yeah. I don't want it to be too like sex party, like, and everyone's wearing like glow up sticks or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. But that's what we learned was super interesting. It's like it's not a
sex party. It's a party where sex happens.
Yes.
Oh, exactly. That's so cool.
Yeah.
You're right.
And this is very on brand for like somebody said. I think in an article that your Instagram is like hot bat mitzvah girl. Like, like what NSFW reminded me of was like essentially a bat mitzvah where everyone's talking, then grinding, then people are hooking up in the corners. Maybe you see someone else's tits.
Who knows? Yeah.
knows?
Definitely sounds like my bat mitzvah.
Okay. I think we got everything.
I have one thing.
Okay, great.
One thing you said was that it's not a good week at La Domaine unless one person is having an epiphany.
Yeah, totally.
What kind of epiphanies are people having?
All sorts of epiphanies about just their sexual desires. I'm pretty sure a bunch of epiphanies just happened during this podcast, right? Like multiple epiphanies.
This epiphany was chic.
Yeah. It was, though. It really was. I feel like I was like, damn. Everything you said, I mean, you guys saw. For the listeners who can't see, I was like constantly, my jaw was dropping.
Slack-jawed. People would offer to pay for that photo. Mic drop.
But yeah, I think a lot of it is just about dispelling all of this shame that we've been talking about and realizing, oh shit, other people do this, it's normal for them, or other people do this and they get a lot of enjoyment out of it, or my partner does this and it's totally okay, you know. And those kinds of things are just really important for people to realize, and also life-changing. Totally. And that is why I love doing sex work.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things too that it's like, okay, maybe your partner isn't into it, but if they are open and they do want you to like seek out what you want to be fulfilled by,
maybe they'll let you go to a dom.
Yeah, exactly. I have many clients whose wives literally send them to me with notes, like when you send it to the teacher when they're going into the school, and being like, "Oh, thank you so much for the beating you gave him last week. He was wonderful and made dinner when
Here's
he got
an apple
home."
for teacher.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God.
I love that. You guys, this has been such a fun episode.
This is so
Yes.
fun.
Rachel, can you tell everybody where they can find you online?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at treaclychild, TREACLY child, and on Twitter at Rachel_Sennott. And I post all my shows and my videos and anything else that I have coming out there.
And tell them what your Instagram means, because I had to ask you.
Okay, it means, so when I was little, I always, when there's like a little kid with a little bit of snot on their nose, they're just sucking on the top of their shirt. That's a sticky child. And I looked up sticky child already taken, so I changed it. I looked up like synonyms for sticky, and treacle is like a molassesy dessert.
You're a sticky little girl.
I'm a sticky little girl.
I'm going to send you home covered in cum.
Yeah. I was like, honestly, it works for this podcast.
Yeah. Mistress Couple, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Mistress Couple La Domaine, on Twitter at Mistress Couple, and mistresscouple.com.
Awesome.
And hey, if you like this episode and you're sitting at home, follow us at How Come Podcast. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/How Come Podcast. There will be extras for this episode.
Oh, yeah. And please rate, review, subscribe. You guys have been doing the best job. It makes us so happy. It also helps us move up in the charts.
Yep.
It helps us get advertisers and, better guests. And,
keep
we only
this podcast going.
Totally. And we only tell you guys the products that we love because they're amazing.
It's true. We've actually rejected a very many amount of products.
It's true.
Go to howcomepodcast.com, get some merch, and go join our Facebook group for the companions. It's a closed group. You can say whatever you want, and companions have been having the best discussions.
The best.
Yeah.
I have to ask this to everyone after a sexual experience, which this has been.
This really has.
Rachel, did you finish?
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Honestly, it's so hot out that my nipples have been soft for so long. And today, for the first time in weeks, rock hard.
Back, baby.
Amazing.
They're back, yeah.
Mistress Couple, did you finish?
Oh, multiple times.
Awesome. I love that. Charlotte, did you finish?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Remy, did you?
I have one more thing to say, just because you brought up the soft nipples, and this is tying everything back together.
Yeah.
E.J. Dixon, who wrote the article in Rolling Stone about you and bonding or whatever, was the first person to tell me how to keep my nipples hard in high school. She was like, what you got to do is just put ice on them and then pinch them.
Oh, interesting.
And
a good friend.
that was in 8th
It's a good
grade.
friend right
so,
there.
That's a great
full
friend.
circle. If you want to keep your nips hard in this hot weather.
I actually need to do that because I am shooting an indie film and I will be showing my nipples in it.
Amazing.
Because the character takes a nude. So I literally was like, my nipples have to be hard for the
You can
day.
also just take your finger and tickle, right?
Tickle. I always
Under the
tickle
side.
my back.
Yeah. Instantly.
You guys, are you all getting your nips hard right now?
Yes, they
are. Yes, they are.
literally was yes.
Okay, I have finished now.
Okay,
I am satisfied.
That does it for her.
Yeah. Thank you for coming,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and we'll see you next time on How Come.
See ya.
Bye.
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 It's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? Okay, yeah, you got it. How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. Why don't you know this song? Why are you here? I wanna jizz.
Your girlfriend listens to it? Your friend. All right.
Hi, guys. Welcome to How Come Live. I'm so excited that you guys all came.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We just had a very fun time listening to all of your stand-up, and whoa, shocker, such a coincidence. All of your stories had herpes.
Well, we're all cool.
We're so cool.
They all fuck.
We do have different kinds of herpes, at least.
You do have different kinds of herpes. I learned that the other day from you, because you kind of admitted to me. You were like, I don't have like the genital one. I have like the mouth one on my genitals.
There's a difference. There's HSV 1, there's HSV 2. Who knew that?
Did you know that? Bravery? No. That's not that brave yet. Joe,
it's your cousin. Your cousin has it, you know?
Yeah. Joe has to go because he's running another show.
Yeah. No,
That rhymed totally.
What?
Joe has to go because we're another show. Loved it.
I love you. But so we're going to get to your story first because you've talked about it on podcasts before, but you're kind of unclear about where your herpes came from, right?
Well, there's two women, two candidates. I got it narrowed down to two. Well, I had sex with a woman who told me she had herpes, so she's an excellent candidate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She said I have herpes.
Yeah.
And then, this is a good way to do it. If you're gonna have sex and you have herpes, you should tell the person you're gonna have sex with, for sure. But the best way to do it, I think, what she did was she told me after we were really making out hot and heavy and nude.
Yeah.
So she could have been like, I got barbed wire and razor blades inside my vagina. And I would have been like, that's fine. I don't care.
I need a second circumcision.
Yeah. So I went, but then I didn't have an outbreak for like 6 months. And then I had an outbreak 2 days after having sex with a different woman. And that's usually more likely to have outbreak like a couple days after acquiring
Maybe that
it.
one was just like itching a mosquito bite. Like the mosquito bite was already there, but then you like activated it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, exactly. Pus.
That's not scientific. That gets cut out.
No, and I made it work by saying pus.
I mean, the thing is, it's funny because I talk about the time I got herpes, but like the truth is I was a competitive gymnast for a million years, and I don't know if anybody's done gymnastics here, but like my hands were ripping on the bars. I mean, I had bloody sores as a child, competitive, like all the time. And
so what's one more?
Well, please, are you kidding me? I actually think it's very romantic because he did tell me, and
yeah.
I guess it's just I like to think of it like it's a vampire thing. Like he turned me.
Yeah.
It's Twilight, and I'm choosing this, and it's for love. And
he's like, no, you have to go to college first.
No, I won't have an outbreak and think of you every time. I want you in me forever. That we broke up, but we are together forever, and that I'm okay with.
Yeah. You had one story where you had told a girl and she was like weird. She was like, ew, why would you say that?
Yeah, she was really mean. We met at a bar or whatever, and then we did what you do to like hook up. We bullshitted and whatever. By bullshit I mean talked, and I didn't mean like I bullshitted her. I said I was a baseball player or whatever. We went back to her her room, and we were like hooking up, and then I was like, I gotta tell you I have herpes, and she was like, oh, gross. That is fucking gross. And first of all, it's very hurtful, but I was also like, well, this is how you get it. Like you're me being a shitty person away from having it.
Yeah.
You've done all the things that you do to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Except I'm like, hey, I have herpes. So like it's not that gross.
You were just doing the nice thing. The gross thing would just to give her herpes.
Yeah. And
I'm
we're
gross.
fucking.
You're gross. Yeah.
Grossing, fucking is gross in general if you think about it.
Yeah. It's a lot of smells.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I like it, but it's definitely yucky. Putting your body in someone's body. That's weird.